Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here for our very exciting third presentation of our 2024 Hispanic Heritage Month virtual events. I guess it's technically the fourth event if you count the in-person event over the weekend that some of us were able to attend. Steve, did you want to do these first slides?
Yeah. Tell me when to start. You would.
We're ready when you are.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Happy to have you here. My name is Steve Camerer, and with me today is Jose Dominguez. We are going to be giving you a presentation on tips and tricks to landing your next state job. Before we do that, we have several slides to go through to share with you, introductory slides about who we are, what we do, and a couple other upcoming events. So without further ado, Jose, did you want to introduce yourself? And I'll do so afterwards, after you do, before we get started on the slides.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Jose Dominguez. I am a Workforce Research and Policy Analyst for the Office of Financial Management. I've been in recruitment for about 26 plus years. I was with the state for about 19, then I left for the private sector, healthcare sector to recruit for them. And also King County Transit. I did about a year of recruiting for them, then came back to the state about 3 years ago. So that's the summary of my career, and glad to be here. Thank you for sharing your lunch time with us. And thanks to everyone who made this possible and the technical support as well, Walt Jones. Thanks.
Thanks, Jose. And I'm Steve Kammer. I am with L&I. I'm a talent management consultant or recruiter. I've been in the recruiting business for about 15 years, with the state almost 5, the private sector before that. I really enjoy matching people up with their dream jobs, working with hiring managers and help them to make it easier for them to recruit. Doing things like this to help demystify processes for people, so it's easier for them and they don't feel like they have a machete and they're just going through the Wild West or the jungle, hacking away. Like Jose said, happy to have you all here. Happy for our technical support, and we hope that we can provide value to you today, for your present and future. Today's meeting is being recorded. Please do mute your microphone. It says here, if possible, keep your camera on, but I'm not sure how many people we are going to be expecting. So yeah, per Sedona's facial expression there, if you want your camera on, fine, but I don't think this is the type of meeting where you have to have it by any means. In fact, it might just eat up bandwidth. Please do use the chat feature to ask questions or raise your hand. I don't know that I will be able to see the chat, but if you do that, we're happy to answer on the fly. Jose, do you have any qualms about answering if people have questions while we're going instead of at the end, or would you prefer at the end?
Yeah, I think that'd be great. It would make this, more of a conversation with participants, and if there's something that comes up, I'll try and give you a heads up on that, and vice versa.
Yep.
I'll be monitoring the chat so I can also, if you don't want to be recorded, definitely keep your camera off. And if you would like to ask a question but you don't want to unmute yourself to do so, you can still use the chat, and I'll voice that for you.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Sivan. We have some community agreements today. As you can see here on the screen, they are: stay engaged, speak your truth, no fixing. If possible, I don't know that this is one of those presentations by nature, but experience discomfort. Take risks. If you have questions that you think, I don't know if I should ask that, do it. Ask. Listen for understanding, and expect and accept non-closure. Again, I don't know if this is one of those presentations where this is top of mind, but in all of our meetings, we do like to have these community agreements and know that this is life. Not everything is like on TV, where you have a 30-minute sitcom where it starts out and there's a big conflict, and at the end, oh, it's solved. But with the information we provide and with your questions, we do hope to provide closure, at least in that sense. And also regarding that, if you wish to reach out to us at the end, I can drop in the chat some contact information so you can do so as well. For the LLN, I want to go through this slide, tell you who we are, the vision, the mission. LLN is a business resource group, and we strive to provide Latinos and their allies in state government a place where they feel a sense of community, learn new things that help them in their professions, and meet other fellow Latino state workers. Our vision is to connect and inspire Washington State's Latino workforce and leaders of today and tomorrow. And our mission is, through the power of connection, to invest, inspire, and serve. And a note here at the bottom, you can see, while we do use the term Latino, we use the term for anybody who identifies as Hispanic, Latino, Latina, Latine, Latinx, Latinat, Chicano, or others similar identifiers. We do want to be as inclusive as possible. So while we do have Latino in their name, know that everybody's invited, and we don't want to exclude anybody. I think I have a couple of different slides here to share for two upcoming events. And before I do that here, let me switch real quick. Here and here.
You got a
So
little
don't
sneak peek what's to come. This is fine. This will be perfectly fine. It's just going to be a little quick reminder that on Tuesday of October the 8th, next week, we welcome you to our general membership meeting. It will be a bit more exciting than some of them are sometimes, because we do have guest speakers throughout the year, but this is going to be a guest speaker that I'm very excited to hear from. Natalie, I forgot to fix the slide. I am so sorry. Her name is Natalie. It is not Natalia. Natalie Asalgado is a licensed practitioner. Thank you, Steve. She is a licensed practitioner in New York City who specializes in discussing neurodivergence for the Latina diaspora and just immigrant communities in general, I believe. So she's going to have a very exciting discussion about those intersections for us to learn about. So that's from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. And so if you do not have that on your calendar already, you can email lln@ofm.wa.gov to get put on that newsletter mailing list. It's a separate registration, or it doesn't require registration for this event. You had to register to attend today, and the next slide you'll have to register to attend. But for general membership meetings, we don't do that. So if you've been to a general membership meeting, it's the same process and procedure as any other time of the year. Yeah. And then our very last but not least exciting presentation is by Estefania Martinez Limo. She has been working for almost a year now on doing a presentation in about Spanglish. She wasn't sure what intersection with that she wanted to do, and finally settled on Spanglish in government, bridging cultures and enhancing communication. So I'm super excited about her presentation. She's got so much passion for the subject and, personal knowledge as well. So I think that one is going to be very healing and supportive for our community to discuss and celebrate the work that we're already doing that hasn't been recognized and that is starting to become recognized in that effort. But today we are going to be having Steve and Jose give us a wonderful presentation that they have given a little preview of and a little description of. So I will mute myself and get excited to learn. Thank you.
Thanks, Sedona. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Sedona. Yep.
There we go. So today we're going to be going through tips and tricks to landing your next role in state government, and understand the process. Like I said, demystifying it some, so it's not this black box that what happens? No one knows. No one knows behind the curtain. We want to pull the curtain back for you a little bit. So let me start then with the breakdown. The breakdown of the recruiting process. Know that, I think you all do, but know that this is state government. We do take a little bit of time. That's not because we say we want people to wait as long as possible. We want this to take 6 months, anything like that. But we do have extra layers of approvals. We do have rules and regulations that private sector does not. And we just want to provide this information for you. So when you are an applicant, you know what to expect. I know for me, I started in February of 2020. So right at the beginning of COVID. And I applied to about 5 jobs. And I heard back from 2 of them. I'm still waiting to hear back from the other 3. Maybe I will.
Don't hold your breath.
But even that being said, I think I applied in, I want to say November or December. It could have been middle to late November. And I started on February 1st. And I think that's in line with what we're showing here. But let me just run through here and take you through it. The requisition or recruitment, both words are used. That's open usually 2 to 4 weeks. When I am working with my hiring managers, I'll ask it. I say, how long would you like this open? If we think that if the recruitment's going to get, say, 100, 150 people applying, we might just run it for 7 days. And the reason for that is that we don't want to inundate. It's 2 reasons. It's one, the hiring manager, and one, the applicants. One, for the hiring manager side, we don't want to inundate them so much that they have to look through all of those to get to one, or if they hire 2 or 3 to that many. On the applicant side, we understand that there's going to be that many applicants. It's just going to be so much, again, looking through, that the chances that you will get from application then to the interview, it's a lot lower. We'll only, if we have one position open, and Jose, feel free to tell me if the differing there is in here. But when I'm recommending them hiring managers, if we have hiring for one person, I'm telling them to interview usually about 6 to 8 people.
Yeah, usually, if you're lucky to get enough qualified applicants like that, 2 to 3 is good. Sometimes hiring managers want to wait for 6 to 8 people.
Yeah.
And they I've had this happen in my experience when a hiring manager wanted to wait for seven qualified candidates to come through. And it was at a time when we were barely getting 3 qualified candidates. I would advise them, don't wait, because you'll lose the 3 if you're waiting for 7 more. So it's better to take care of, what you've got, instead of, waiting and risking that somebody else is going to, swoop up those other candidates.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And sometimes on my experience, they want to interview. They've told me I want to interview 15 people. And right away on that, I'm telling them, hold on a second, hold your horses. Think about all the time that's going to take for your panel. And are you going to get those 15 hours? How long is that going to take you? So I do like to caution them, pare it down more. But of course, a lot of it does depend on that applicant. How many qualified applicants do we have? So I start with recommending to them 2 weeks, unless it's going to be something we know we're going to get 75 to 150 applicants, and then I will recommend the 7 days. And then the 4 weeks, that's for, so I recruit for the IT division here at LNI, and some of the jobs I recruit for are like architect, and that's a computer architect, not an architect for buildings, but application developer, senior specialist, DevOps engineers, senior specialist. Those are positions where we may get 10 to 20 applicants total. So we might start out with 4 weeks, and then we might increase it in 2-week increments. Gone are the days where we're posting open until filled. And I believe that's gone because we don't want to keep you waiting as an applicant to if you keep going back to careers.gov and seeing what's happening, and you never know. So we like to keep it at 4 weeks, extend it to, but not keep them open until filled. The next bullet here, it might take 3 or 4 days for supplemental questions to be scored if the agency has it set up. And when you apply to positions, you'll see that they ask you questions. How many years of experience do you have? Do you have experience with Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint? So you're giving your answers there. And then as recruiters, we're looking at those answers, looking at your resume, looking at your application, sending them over to the hiring managers. And they might take 3 to 4 days to score those, if they do score. And not every agency does. We don't. Jose probably has data about how many do versus don't. But I just know at LNI, we do not. Next, go ahead, Jose, if you have that.
No, go ahead. That usually,
data
yeah, you're exactly right. That usually depends on, the recruiter or the recruitment, what they do with it as far as, supplemental questions or they're just straight up assessing the experience.
Yeah. The next one here, the hiring manager usually takes about a week, up to 2 weeks, to decide who they want to interview. And again, this is highly dependent on how many applicants that they get, how many that I have qualified and sent over to them as referral. If it's 5 people, it's probably not going to take a week, or 2 weeks for that matter. It's probably just going to take a number of days. But if I'm sending them 20 people, it might take them some time to relook through them, because what they are doing as hiring managers is they're checking to see, did Steve refer these people, and are they qualified? Occasionally, I will send over to my hiring managers what's called a SME review. If you as an applicant are right on the fence and I can't determine, I'm sending it over to them to make that decision, to guide me. The next step is the interviews. And again, we can be looking at how many rounds of interviews do we have? 1 round, 2 rounds. But interviews usually takes about 2 weeks, and that's for 1 round. Now, if you have another round, that may take another week to 2 weeks, depending on how large your candidate pool is to start with for interviews and how much it shrinks down. It can take several days then after your interviews to choose the final candidate. And what happens there is the interview panel meets, they talk about the candidates and they compare them to the job qualifications. And again, I recommend as a recruiter that they do a matrix to make, what I say is to make a subjective process most objective. And that takes out anything like fit. So when managers, just by the way, when managers say, oh, we're looking for a fit with our team, we really want to dissuade them against that. But I think we will be covering that in some other slides here. The next one, from offer date to start date. This can be anywhere from 2 weeks, you get the offer, up into a month. And it's also dependent on the candidate side. if you have anything going on, say any FMLA, vacation, surgeries. So it could be on your part too. You can say, well, I need to start in November because of this. But sometimes, and if you're a state employee, you can only start twice, once at the beginning of the month and once at the middle. So we do have our restrictions there as well. So as you can see at the bottom here, the total time then is usually about 2 months. I would say it could, I mean, I've seen it maybe in a month, not very often, but maybe on rare occasions a month. More often it's about a month and a half, but it could take 2 months. It could take longer than that too. So just do keep that in mind when you are in that beginning process stage of applying for a job.
And I add to that too. Also, I've seen it happen as somebody get hired in as short as a week, and that's because it was a non-perm, short-term position. So it was for a need that was immediate, and that happens pretty quickly when it's non-perm or project. And sometimes project positions are based on money that is temporary or grant funded. So the agency has to get a body in that role right away because they're limited on how long they have to spend that money. So if you see non-perm or project positions, I wouldn't shy away from those. And that's how I started with the state many years ago, and even more recently, 3 years ago, in a non-perm position. So I would just say, those can also turn into permanent roles eventually, and once you're in, you can network, you can apply to other jobs, and when your term is up, then you could get hired into another role that's permanent. So I'm going to talk about job search myths because there's a lot of them out there in the private sector job market and in the public sector job market. There's a lot of folks out there giving misinformation about what happens when you apply to a job, and a lot of that is because usually these people are trying to get you to buy their services. So there's some kind of career coach or career counselor or resume writer, and they want to tell you, oh, they got the robot proof resume that you should buy for, $500 from them. But the first myth, there's no bot, there's no AI that reads your resume or screens it. Now that's technology that's probably being explored not by us, but by private sector tech companies. Maybe they are probably doing that. But a real human in state government reads, a real recruiter, real human recruiter reads your resume or other documents and screens it for required qualifications. So there's no such thing as a AI or bot or something that reads your resume and kicks it out because it doesn't have the right keywords in it. We're looking at keywords, but as a person, we're looking at what your qualifications match against or how your qualifications match against the position description, which tells the recruiter what the minimum qualifications are. And eventually we're moving into, more competencies and skills. But at this point, they're looking to see how your experience and how your skills match the minimum qualifications, which is the most important part of the job description if you're applying to a role. The other myth is, some folks say, I need to go around HR or recruitment to get hired. That's not true. We have a hiring process for a reason, and it's to provide equal opportunity to all Washingtonians. So it's important for us to abide by a legally defensible process. And the way to do that is to go through our applicant tracking system and applying to NeoGov or governmentjobs.com or through our careers.wa.gov site. So we have a purpose for, going through that process. Sometimes, you can talk to a hiring manager, and sometimes hiring managers might give you some information that is misleading, like, oh yeah, I'll interview you. That, they shouldn't promise you anything or guarantee you anything. The process has to play out. And just to be fair, to be legal, equitable, and fair, we have to have a process, and you will have to go through the recruitment process to get that done. Now, as I mentioned before, there might be an exception for non-perms because that is something for an immediate need. That might play out differently. That's why the system is shorter, but you still will have to put an application through, and it may go faster, but um, it it might be the exception to the rule. So the other myth is it will be harder to get hired if I'm over a certain age, a veteran or person with a disability, etc. So that's not true either. There are some federal protections to prevent discrimination in employment. So we do have the, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, which protects you if you are 40 years or over. The Americans with Disability Act protects you if you have a disability in any employment situation. There's a Pregnancy Discrimination Act, and the veterans can count on the USERA, Uniformed Services Employment and Reemployment Rights Act. And then there's also Equal Pay Act. So don't worry about, any certain age or veteran or any of your status. That is protected by federal law and state law as well. So there's some advice out there that people have that says keep your resume to one page or no one will read it. That is a myth. I knew a person in the last agency I worked at, a candidate who applied with a one-page resume but had 30 years of experience. So what happened to all that experience? He shortened it and ended up being disqualified because there wasn't enough, qualifying experience because she kept it to one page. And why did she keep it to one page? Because some counselor advised her to keep it to one page. 2 pages is okay. So that said, if you have the experience that doesn't fit on one page, then use 2 pages. We're looking at your experience. And so no matter when you got it, where you got it, a recruiter will look at all of it. And it's important to have all of it if you want to, qualify for a role. So gaps in my work history will disqualify me for a job. So some people have gaps in their work history because maybe they had a health condition, maybe they had to care for an elderly parent, or they were raising children. I would say, don't worry about that so much. It's what you did in that gap period. A trend lately is for, high school students or college students to take a gap year before they actually start working. They're done with school, they want to do some, exploring, and that's fine. But, as long as you can account for that time, you can put it in your application. Maybe you volunteered. So that's worthy. It's a skill that you may have gained in a volunteer experience. Maybe you researched something, learned something, took a class, went to take some continuing education classes. Those are all valid reasons for having gaps in your work history. And honestly, now that the pandemic has kind of threw everybody off course as far as work history, people are going to have gap years, and people are going to have, or gaps in their work history, and they're going to have, actually they're going to have job hopping as well. So, that's what the economy has created. So that's really an understandable reason to have gaps in your work history, or job hopping as well. I might as well throw that in there. Nobody hires during the holidays or over the summer. That's not true. We always hire. So if you look at the careers.wa.gov site, there's probably over 900, and I looked this morning or yesterday, and it was about 966 positions open. And sometimes it goes over 1,000, 1,200. If there's a job open there, that means we're hiring for it, and there's no slow down. Usually that is said because sometimes hiring managers think, oh well, people are going to be on vacation, they're not going to answer my calls, they're not going to apply. I'll wait till the holidays are over, and I discourage them from doing that because people are looking even during the holidays. You never know, what somebody's circumstances are, and so I wouldn't be discouraged about applying for jobs during the holidays or over the summer. And also that said, it might be a little bit a slower time to, for the process because hiring managers also go on vacation. And so sometimes they're off for a week and, they can't get back to they have a recruitment going on. And usually they're pretty good about timing it, but, sometimes it happens. Vacations, interfere with the work. So it might be a little bit delayed. Um, and then the last one, internal employees always get the job. Now, sometimes that's the case, a promotional opportunity. You'll see on a posting that it'll say internal candidates only or internal only. That means that it's for a promotional opportunity for employees in that agency. So if you're not a state employee, I would not apply to those jobs because there's no chance you'll get those if you're not an internal employee. But as far as other jobs go, I would say it does happen, but not always and rarely. And so don't worry about that. It's a competitive process, and that's why they call it the open competitive process. So I would, put your best effort forward and apply to the job. Not everybody's going to get hired. Only one person can get hired in most cases. So you're competing with, anywhere from 25 to 100 people. It's not always the internal, and I wouldn't worry about that. I would just apply and put your best effort forward. Anything to add to that, Steve?
Um, I think on the one about on that one there, that's one reason why they have us as the consultants and recruiters is that we can kind of help keep them in line. And if they say, I'm looking for so and so to apply, someone that's already on their team, things like that, just know, people in attendance, just know that that makes our ears go up, and that makes us think, what are they trying to do? Um, at every step of the process, we, as in recruitment, look to make fair, equitable, and defensible hires. So know that you have somebody. We might still be in an age where a hiring manager might be leaning towards somebody before a recruitment starts, but know that we hold their feet to their fire, as it were, making sure fair, equitable, defensible hires are made.
Excellent. Next slide. So here's some application tips. And the first one, give yourself some options and apply to more than one place. So a lot of times in my experience, and probably Steve, you encountered this too, is an applicant it's always usually the curious applicant who always is asking for the status on their application. That's usually because they applied to one job and they're counting on being hired to that one job. And to be honest, there's no guarantee that you're going to get hired, even if you think you're the best applicant for that job. And I always tell job seekers, you need to apply to more than one place. That's going to give you more options. That's going to, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Because sometimes people will wait and wait and wait for one job to be hired at. It doesn't happen, and then they're disgruntled. And then they're disgruntled for a good reason because they're trying to get out of a job that they're in, or they're trying to get a job that they want and they're not employed. So I would say, give yourself some options, apply to more than one place. Even at one agency, you can apply to more than one job because, you know, typically there's going to be more than one hiring manager, even if it's the same role. Or the same type of position, there's probably more than one hiring manager looking for somebody to hire. So one might not think they want to hire you, and the other might think they should hire you. So give yourself options. And then the second tip, carefully read job posting and attach any required documents. So the most important part of the job description that you see online or the job posting is the required qualifications. Definitely read that, read all the details. If it says to attach a cover, I know cover letters are old fashioned and they're from the dinosaur era, But if the hiring manager wants one, attach it. And if there's any other required documents, please don't forget to attach those documents. I've seen candidates be disqualified because they forgot to attach a cover letter. And believe it or not, there are hiring managers out there that'll say, "Oh, they forgot the cover letter. They're not paying attention to detail." You know, that's how sometimes they look at it. So I would be careful about that and read the posting, read all the requirements, and make sure that you've got those things on hand. So degrees are not needed for jobs that don't legally require one. So Senate House Bill 2216 um, passed in the last legislative session has made it law that agencies will not require a degree where it is not legally required to perform the essential functions of that role. So there are some jobs out there you'll see an alternate path. Maybe they say one way to apply is with a degree, and then the next statement will say there's another way to apply without a degree with experience. So make sure you read that qualifications, because even though you see a degree there, there's got to be an alternate path for somebody to qualify if that degree is not legally required to perform the essential functions of that job. So that said, like if there's licensure, if there's a certification that's required, then yes, that's going to be, and it takes a degree to get that licensure. Like, for example, a registered nurse or a lawyer, that's going to be required. So they're still going to have, require those credentials. And lastly, tailor your application to the job, including your resume and cover letter. So make sure that you address those things in the role. Usually the duty section of the job posting will tell you what you're going to be doing in that job. If you've done anything similar to that, I would make sure that you include that in your resume and mention, important information in your cover letter if they require one, that will add value to your application. And that's it. Next slide. Unless you have something to add, Steve.
I think the only thing I want to add on that is a couple of things on the cover letter is that, yeah, definitely in the attachments, definitely 100% do it, because I've seen the same thing. I've seen hiring managers use that as a screening tool. They say, "Oh, I've got 30 applicants, and I'm going to disqualify right off the bat 8 of them because they don't have a cover letter." Should they be doing that? No. But can I convince them not to do that? No. Also, if someone says applying an L&I, and it's Dear DSHS or Dear DOC, that, oh, hiring managers, it's rare the case when a hiring manager won't care that you put something like that. Even something like, "I want to work for your company," to really tailor that. You don't have to, in a resume too, but you don't have to switch around your whole resume. But do, as Jose just said, look at the job duties and put those things in there in your resume. Take that time. So now we're going to talk about informational interviews. As we see here on the slide, what are they? How do they work? And what are the benefits of an informational interview? I don't know how many people know what informational interviews are. I would guess it's maybe 70 to 80%. But what I can tell you is that I have a cousin. He's worked in the IT industry as a database developer for 25, 30 years. And some time ago, maybe a year ago, he was looking to move companies. So I said to him, well, or maybe even move roles a little bit. And I said, "Have you considered doing an informational interview?" He said, "No." And I said, "How come?" "I don't know what that is." And I thought to myself, "You've been in the industry for almost 30 years and you don't know what these things are?" "No, can you tell me?" And I was happy to. But really, there's tons of benefit to doing. And before I get into it here, The caveat is, and Jose, tell me if it's if you've heard anything different, but here at L&I, where I work, if we have an ongoing recruitment and you as the applicant wish to do an informational interview, we will not grant you that informational interview because it could give you an advantage over other candidates who do not have that chance. Have you seen anything different, Jose?
Yes, that's correct. And I've seen even managers have told me I can't do any. They'll refer a job seeker to me because, or in the past they referred a job seeker to me because, uh, you know, they requested a informational interview and they say, in order to keep this process fair and not give you an unfair advantage, I can't give you an informational interview, which I think is, a a good practice for hiring
Yeah.
managers for that reason. Because if as a hiring manager to keep the process fair, if you're going to give one person an informational interview, then you better give all of them an informational interview, and
That's right.
that's just to keep the process fair. But yeah, so if there's an ongoing recruitment, it's unlikely that you will get to get an informational interview with the hiring manager.
Thank you. And so the purpose, an informational interview is a chance for you to see, is this a role that I might like? Or is this a team that I might like to work on? What they are not, related to that last point, is a chance for you to elevate yourself during a hiring process and to skip around, as Jose, as he's talked about, skip around the recruiter or HR. You can't it's not going to get you from 20th in line to first. But there's so many benefits to it. You want to reach out for an informational interview. You probably want to reach out to the HR department and to a talent person. If you are someone who's in private industry, you can reach out to us and we in recruiting can talk about the benefits to working in state government. We can talk about the benefits of different teams as a whole. But if you're looking for a certain position, say over here at L&I, a claims adjuster, for example, I'm probably not the best one to talk to for that informational interview because I don't do that work. I don't recruit for that section or division, but even if I did, I wouldn't be able to tell you that information as in depth as the people that do the job every day. So what you want to do is you want to get in contact with me, and then you want to have me reach out to someone that does the work, either a manager or a frontline staff, and schedule 30 minutes with them to ask them questions about what they do. And I'll go through here, and give you some questions to ask. An important point about informational interviews is that you, as the person requesting that informational interview, you should be prepared. It shouldn't be the case that you come to the informational interview and, oh, thanks for meeting. And then you sit back and you just wait for them to tell you everything. It's kind of like when I was in school, one of my professors said to me, or the whole class actually, he said, be careful when you ask me for a reference. We all kind of looked at it like, huh? Someone before did, and they said, can you provide a reference for me? I said, sure, I can. I did, and afterwards, the person wasn't very happy. What they should have asked me was, can you provide a positive reference for me? I thought, oh man. But it's similar here. Is that if you just say, I want an informational interview, okay, don't let the person over here, they don't know what you want. So you're gonna have to spell it out for them, and have questions in advance for them. I would recommend 30 minutes. If afterwards, if they want to meet with you again, that's great. But just reaching out to someone for the first time, I wouldn't advise you set up an hour meeting or longer to try to take up that much time. Here's some questions that you might ask them. How did you decide to enter this field? Can you describe a typical day in your job? What type of experiences prepared you for this job? What type of skills do you use in your job? What challenges do you face on a daily or weekly or monthly basis? What are some of the frustrations you face? Are there any opportunities to advance in your field? Sedona, I see your hand up.
Yes, we've got a question. When would it be appropriate to ask for one of these informational interviews?
Great question. My response is, so I'm an HRC, human resource consultant. That is my job classification. I've done recruiting work for about 15 years, and I have been, for the past 5 years, I've been thinking about getting into a new field. Prior to being a recruiter, I was a teacher, so training interests me. DEI certainly interests me. When is the time to do it? When you think to yourself, those new jobs, or if so, start looking at careers.wa.gov at the job titles, what people do, maybe what people on your team do, and when you have that first inkling of, I wonder what it is that they do. I wonder if I would like it. That's the time to start reaching out to people. I hope that was a sufficient enough answer. If not, ask again and I can provide more information. Other questions you might ask in an informational interview is, what experiences would be helpful for entering into this field? What type of preparation, credentials, education must one have to enter the field? What can I do if I enter this field to make myself more marketable and competitive? And what recommendations would you have for an entry-level person considering this job? This is a huge one when I think about the job that I recruit for, which is called application developer entry. This is one that I got 127 people applied for last time. And I had so many people reach out to me the whole time. I'm interested. I thought to myself, I know you are. And afterwards, after I sent out the emails to people letting them know, sorry, we have our interview, people we're interviewing, and you're not selected. Can you tell me what was wrong with my application? What was wrong with my resume? It wasn't about that. It's about having so many people that are qualified for a job that we're only hiring one. So a recommendation there I would have is for those people is, and I give this recommendation, is to do internships, do special projects if you can, that's related to the job you want to do. We have DJAs, which are developmental job assignments. Anything you can do if you think about the people that are applying, what they might have on their resume that might elevate you a little bit. And then once you're elevated in the referred status, the hiring manager might say, I see that Jose has an extra certification that Steve doesn't. Let's bring him in for an interview. Anything you can do to set yourself apart and make you rise to the top a little bit more. So any of these questions are good. I would say in 30 minutes, try to pare it down to maybe, probably under 10 questions, depending on how in-depth you want them to get with the answer. And again, 30 minutes is probably the recommendation. If they want to meet with you again afterwards, great. If you want to, if you establish some sort of relationship with them, but for an initial meeting, I think 30 minutes is a good time frame to ask for. Jose, do you have anything to add here on this slide?
No, I think you're right. And during the informational interview, the one thing I would recommend not doing is asking for a job, because the hiring manager cannot hire you unless you go through the process. And a hiring manager really cannot guarantee you anything or make any promises to you. So I would be cautious of that. If they say, oh yeah, I'll interview you, but you happen to not meet the qualifications, there's no way they're going to be able to interview you. So I would just watch out for those kind of things.
Thank you. We have another question. This person requested information from a section manager about any potential upcoming openings and was advised they were checking the movement list. They contacted HR and added themselves to the list, then asked HR if letting the hiring manager know would be appropriate, and they said that was okay. Would that be a conflict in line with the request for informational interview?
I'm not sure what the movement list is. That's
I'm not either.
it sounds like um, a collective bargaining process.
So yeah, if that questioner wants to provide any more information, I'll raise my hand again for you. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks. Okay, so bias is always present. We can do some things to help minimize it. And Steve is going to talk about the actual interview process shortly, but just keep in mind that it is most emotional decision making happens during interviews. So you're in the interview because you meet the qualifications. There's no doubt about that. Otherwise, you wouldn't be invited to one. Just keep in mind that there's a lot of emotional decision making happening in that interview. That said, be lighthearted, be cordial, let your personality show, and I guess, portray yourself, be your natural self, and let the manager get a feeling for that they can work with you. It doesn't hurt to smile. I've been through interviews where candidates never smile, and it could be because they're nervous, and sometimes they, well, when they're going through the interview, they'll start to lighten up, and they won't feel so nervous anymore because it's not as stressful as it seemed, and then they'll lighten up and smile, maybe even laugh a little at a joke or say something humorous. Um, and then you want to assure the interview panel that you are a team player because, honestly, that's probably what they're looking for, a team player, somebody that, is going to get along with others, somebody who has some great ideas, who, wants to contribute to the team. Um, and sometimes managers look for those key words about teams. I like working with other people. I like being part of a team, but I also like being an individual contributor, those kind of things. So just be aware that, if there's a big panel, it's probably other members of the team that you're going to be in. So you want to be sure that you're giving them the cues that you are a team player. And then address appropriately for virtual interviews. I know we've gotten, a little bit lax on the dress code. That's fine. I'm good with that because I think, I'm glad that we're that we're beyond the suit and tie and, era. That's old school. Um, so, but you still have to, dress, wear a button-up shirt, if you're or some kind of dress attire, your business casual attire. I did an interview recently and somebody showed up with a hoodie. Now that really turned off, it really turned off the hiring manager or one of the panel members. And that was the one thing that they had against the candidate. And, it's not about, your dress, it's about whether you can do the job. But just, even though we're in a virtual environment, for the most part, I would just, you know, be careful about your attire. And that's it for this slide.
So next, I want to talk about two methods of interviewing: the STAR method and the CAR method. Neither one is better than the other, and so both are good. We here on our talent team at L&I, we like to coach folks as well on both of these. It's what you're most comfortable with. So let's start over at the STAR method. I'll read both of them and then I'll go through them. But it's a situation, and these are for, by the way, for behavioral questions. Tell me about a time when you were on a team and it was successful. Tell me about a time when you had to work with difficult people. STAR method: situation, the task, the action you took, and then the result. For the situation, you want to provide the background information. You want to paint a picture for them. The task: what is it that you did, or what was it that needed to be done? The action is actually what you actually did, and then the result. Because you took the action you did, what happened? Maybe the customer the difficult customer, you turned them around and made them very happy, and they became a loyal customer. Over at the CAR method, we take out the first two, the situation and task, and we add the challenge. And the reason why the CAR method was developed is because sometimes people they mix up what was the situation, what was the task, and I've done that before too. So instead of that, what was the challenge? What was the challenge presented? But also at the same time, you can and probably should provide a little bit of background information of in my day-to-day work, I'm supposed to answer phones and make sure that customers are happy and that they're returning customers. But you're talking about a challenge that sometimes customers call and they're angry, and it's my duty to make sure that they leave the phone and we hang up and they are satisfied. And again, the last two, action and result. So for interviews, what I can tell you is this: prepare, prepare, prepare. Have examples already written down. I would say 3 examples, up to 10. Have them cataloged. And so when you're asked in an interview to provide these examples, you can grab them. And maybe you have one example that fits for 3 different scenarios. Whereas if you don't do that, you're caught like a deer in the headlights. Yeah, that's a good question. And we've seen that in interviews before, and the answers that are provided are really scarce. Because of our shortness in time and our length of talking today, I'm not going to be able to show the videos, but I will drop both of these videos in chat. I think they are useful to go through and will provide value to you. So as I put it to the next slide here, let me drop in the chat both the links for both the STAR method and the CAR method.
And while you're doing that, that second questioner said that they had looked it up, that the movement rights are part of the applicable collective bargaining agreement for DOH and other vacancies at other state agencies. So I believe they just wanted a confirmation that, from what I've heard today, it doesn't sound like that movement list and your rights associated would have any conflict with the informational interview. Is that correct? That those are 2 separate things?
Yeah, I would say that, you're not applying to a job when you're doing an informational interview. So you're just looking for information. It's kind of the job seeker research that we're talking about here. And, if you're an external employee, that wouldn't apply to you as far as, being in a, I guess, movement rights wouldn't apply to you if you're an external employee that's not a state government employee.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's go over some recruiter tips for job search. So recruiters, they have the inside scoop. They would probably search for jobs this way, is why I put this here. So this is just some, tips from the recruiter world on how they would search for jobs. And one thing that is really important is network. So there's so many professional or, social media platforms out there, LinkedIn being the most dominant. I would use that to connect with individuals in working for companies or agencies that you want to work for, or connect with people in the role that you are looking for as well. And just, pick their brain, ask them for advice, just get to know folks in the professional industry or sector that you're in. And then be clear about what sets you apart. So you're competing with other people in the applicant pool. So you want to be clear about what sets you apart. If you have certifications, if you have, specific experience that you feel is valuable, then I would make sure that you put that in there, and then be detailed about it. If you've done it more than once, how many times? If you worked with a bunch of people, how many people did you work with? If it's about dollar amounts, make sure you don't say you're just a bank teller. How much money are you processing throughout the day? That's going to be important. And then don't post your resume online and forget about it. So here's here's a tip from the recruiter world. How recruiters search for candidates is they try to pick the low-hanging fruit. So they're going to go into a system like LinkedIn, or they're going to go into a system like Indeed, and search the resume bank, and they're going to try to find the folks that have been more active recently. So if you just put your resume on there and forgot about it, and it's been, 7 months, probably you're not going to get, contacted, because honestly, when a recruiter looks in one of those systems for a resume, they're looking for somebody who's been active in the last 30 days. So when you go in there and log into that site, they're going to know that you've been active, because there's filters that they can use to tell them when a candidate or someone has been active in that system. Have a complete profile with keywords on any platform. So if you're going to put your profile up on LinkedIn, don't just, put the bare minimum to get it up there. You make it complete, because a recruiter will search for candidates using keywords like certificates or experience or skills, or, an IT language or an IT specialty. Or maybe there's laws that you've worked with, or some kind of processes or computer software programs. They're going to look for those keywords. So make sure that your profile does have those things, and don't over obsess with your profile picture. I know that's been a kind of a thing lately. People say, yo, you got to have a profile that looks like this, don't worry about it. If you ever heard of the business person, thought leader Gary Vaynerchuk, he has a baseball cap and a t-shirt on his profile picture, and that doesn't seem to hold him back. And then honestly, LinkedIn is the new professional portfolio. So if you have work to show, of course, work that not that doesn't involve other people's information, but if you have work that you can post online, maybe you've written an article about your field, maybe you have artwork, let's say, or graphic design, because you're applying to a communications position, or samples of work. You can post those on LinkedIn. And so I really think it's the new professional portfolio. Easy to get to, easy to send a link to the hiring manager or when you apply to a job. And then get noticed on social media. So talk about your industry, talk about what you're doing in it and what's exciting about it, what the future holds for it. Those write some posts and put them online. And then also post your resume on WorkSource. WorkSource is the best free, undervalued, I think, and best kept secret in recruitment, because resumes on WorkSource are free for recruiters, for one thing, so they don't have to pay a fee like they do on Indeed or LinkedIn to get a premium account. It's free to recruiters. They can go in there, they can do a search, and they can find your resume if it's up there, and your profile, and contact you. So WorkSource is a very rich resource for job seekers. So definitely look into that. And that's by ESD, Employment Security Department. So I think you can find it at worksource.com.
That, everybody, concludes our presentation for today. As you can see here, here's both of our contact information. Please write it down should you have any questions for us. We're happy to answer any questions that we left unanswered today. Anything that comes up. Jose, how long have you been recruiting? How long do you say?
Gosh, about 26 plus years.
15 for me. So that's we're over 40 years of experience.
Of experience, right? So take advantage of that if you're.
Yeah, please. And like I'd like to say in every presentation I do, I hope that we provided some value to you today for your present, near future, and not near, a little bit further out future. Not just information for a test. We're not giving any tests here. but this is a real world application that we hope that we can help you to find and land your next job.
Yes, thank you everyone for being here and for your your participation. Really appreciate it.